Welcome to the podcast, Bo and John.
Thanks,
Great to
Peter.
be
It's good to be here.
Okay, well, let's kick it off by giving a little background. Bo, a lot of people know your background. So, John, let's start with you. Just tell us some of the career highlights to date before you got to FinTech Meetup.
Sure. Well, Peter and Bo, thank you so much for inviting me on. I started my career back originally selling diapers and orange juice for Procter & Gamble. So I was a brand manager back over in the UK. And after about 7 years, I was looking for my next adventure. And I came across this small little payments company that did cross-border global payments about 15, 16 years ago. And I loved it so much. I thought this whole thing was incredible, this combination of technology and payments. Mm-hmm. So I packed a bag, bought a one-way ticket, moved to the Holiday Inn in Chelsea, and grew the Americas for the company, which was called Earthport at the time.
Having a fortress and a citadel, I mean, these are truly the leading financial players and architects of financial trading in the country. And so for them to come along with us as partners and allies, I think is a very big deal.
Mistake that people in the early stages made in this whole space is trying to make the medium of exchange a volatile speculative currency like a crypto asset. So Ripple is still trying to, for example, basically move money around the world using XRP. But if the underlying asset itself is volatile, that makes it very difficult because you don't know how much value you're exchanging.
The other problem we are trying to solve is the problem of liquidity or pre-funding. People who are aware of how cross-border payments work today, there's a lot of reliance on pre-funding and liquidity management. We believe that a digital asset can actually solve that problem. And it's no longer theoretical. We actually launched our product called XRapid sometime in October last year to solve exactly that. So basically we're offering that product to banks and smaller PSPs where they no longer have to pre-fund fiat currency in different accounts across the globe, but they can leverage a digital asset like XRP to source real-time liquidity. So this is how we are leveraging digital assets and blockchain to solve a real-world problem, and we are seeing real customers use these technologies live in production and seeing real traction.
So the idea of stablecoins started to come into being. The problem with most of the stablecoins that came into being is, your trust in that stablecoin is entirely dependent on your trust on the fact that it will maintain its value. And if you can say what you want, that it's asset backed, but how much will people trust it? I mean, in theory, people don't even entirely at a large scale trust, banks. So they're not going to trust a crypto custodian. So there's a new generation of providers coming in with stable coins, which are working jointly with central banks, and where the underlying fiat that's backing the stable coin is actually sitting with a credible, not just a bank, but potentially a central bank. And then suddenly you've got an asset that can, credibly claim to have stable value. And it's a digital version of currency, so you can actually use the underlying technologies that we're talking about to move value around the world, either in the form of trade or service or contracts, and not worry about whether that will be volatile or exchange its value. But the same organizations that are looking at the models using stable coins are also considering issuing a different form of a token, and which is called a utility token. And that utility token is actually used it is speculative, it is volatile, and it basically accrues value from the cash flow of the business.
Can you tell me a bit more about Visa Direct and how Visa is effectively leveraging its incredible network to improve the lives of millions of people around the world?
Which, if you look at the number of banked individuals across the globe, a combination of Earthport, the ability to push to bank accounts and leveraging ACH and RTP, plus our ability to push to bank accounts, through cards to consumers and small businesses, we basically cover virtually all of the banked individuals across 200 countries in the globe, right? And so it just facilitates commerce in a whole new way. It's faster. There's the security protocols, the liquidity, the transparency of the payment. It's all connected through this single integrated network now, right? So that's the whole gist of the thing.
Speaking of that acquisition of Earthport, what does it mean for the banks around the world and even the end users?
Well, essentially it means that, through a single connection, right? So you take, global players that want to move money across the planet. Today they have 5, 10, 15, 20 different payment schemes that they have to try to accommodate. Think about their back office, their technology, their accounting, their liquidity, transparency and tracking of the payments. It's all really, really complex. Now with a network of this size and scale and reach, they can connect one time and they can leverage that entire network, to simplify their payment operations, to improve their customer experience, to leverage the speed and the security of the network. It all comes together in a much simpler way that lets them focus on their business versus focus on, their back office and complicated things about moving money around the planet.